We're here at AI4 in Vegas. This is a 2026 edition of this conference. We're with Avinash, who is one of the CEOs and co-founders of Skan AI. Please, can you tell us a little bit about your software?
Well, I want to begin with a metaphor. I want to tell you that in a world obsessed with finding the most intelligent and the most qualified driver, we are more obsessed with finding the most detailed map on which this driver will drive on. The truth of the statement is that we help organizations build context of the work that they do so that AI agents can perform better.
Your product is like very not invasive, right? Which is what we like. At developers.net, we're starting to do some AI automations, enterprise level automations, but we still are going to the client, interviewing the client, sitting down, looking at the process. We have humans doing this, right? And when you're looking over their shoulder and stuff like that, they behave different, right? So talk to us a little bit about like how you guys did it, how you do it, what it does.
Polanyi's paradox. Humans know more than they can tell. And so there is no way that you can extract the true reality of work by talking to someone. Yeah. It is biased. You might do 10 things in a day that take away like 1 minute of time, but you never recognize that as a drain of time. Yep. Or you do one thing that takes away 5 minutes and you say that's the problem. Whereas you might be spending 15 minutes across the day on doing things that are not valuable. How do you discover that? No one will tell you that. That can only be observed. Second thing is that as much as we know about our work, we only describe our work in terms of what we are supposed to do, not what we actually do.
Yep.
And so therefore the only thing is to observe work as it happens without having an observer in play. And the only way you can do that is to have technology that is, in some sense, observing the work, the decisions you're making, the back and forth that is happening in that business process. So a small piece of technology that sits on the desktops and observes the screen context of everyone working in that business process and treats that as the input data into AI models that begin to get an understanding of what this business process means, what are the goals of the business processes, what are the decisions being taken, what are the applications being invoked, when is there a back and forth between two different people, and it's looking at all the cases and building a semantic understanding in much the same way that OpenAI builds semantic understanding of language. We treat work as language, just that in this language, there are no words, sentences, paragraphs, there are steps, sub-steps, applications, features that are involved in this business process.
And how do you deal with the noise, right? Because like when I sit down and I do work, I'm here, let's say I have to do an invoice or I have to do some order processing in an invoice, right? I start the order processing and my Slack shows up a message and I go in and answer that one. And then I go back to the process and then my email dings and it's an important email, so I stop doing that and I go and do the email. And now, I don't know, something else, my wife texts me, right? And I'm looking at that text. And then I go back and continue the work. And there's obviously multiple distractions during the day when I'm sitting down and doing work, right? So how do you deal with that with your technology?
The technical answer to that question is that our models are stateful. What I mean by that is if you were looking at someone's screen and you would have no problem distinguishing between what's work and what's noise. Why? Because fundamentally you understand the signature of work expressed on the screen. So if you see, well, this is not the same case, this is a different case, or this looks like to be the bank records, something entirely unrelated to the work I do, you would say that this is noise, right? And you would inherently disqualify it.
Correct.
Similarly, our models that are looking at work on the screens are stateful, as in they can follow the state of work, saying this is the invoice, or this is the claim, and I see the same claim number moving across different screens, or every time these two screens come up, which have the claim number, there's a screen in between that everyone uses. It's the same step everyone is using. So then you begin to realize that this is important, this is not a noise, right?
Got it.
In other cases, you have statistically insignificant things that are happening that happen only episodically. You can then probabilistically assign that, well, this may be noise.
And the same way, I'm guessing that, I mean, if I'm doing this, if I'm doing a claim or an invoice, and I have to ask my manager something on Slack, that process is like, oh, okay, from this invoice, he's asking context in Slack, and then he's coming back and finishing that. So you guys also track that part too.
Indeed. And
that's
so
amazing.
A large part of our work involves, as I said, the signature of work. And the signature of work involves not just the flow of work, but also the flow of context as it moves from one screen to the other. And today, large language models, because they have flattened language, it is much easier to describe a screen in terms of not just what it is doing, but also the intent behind what is happening on that screen.
That makes total sense. Avinash, how did you come up with this idea? Why? Why did you come up with this idea?
I was involved in large-scale process transformation many years ago, and I began to realize that as much attention was being paid to the tooling of transformation, the RPA and the bots and the large language models and the dynamic workflows and so on and so forth, very little attention was paid to modeling work that went on in organizations. And in the age of AI, that model of work has become exponentially more important than the tool itself, because the tool has been flattened.
Yep.
The AI can take care of the tooling. It can do it. It has the intelligence.
Oh yeah.
But the context of work has become vitally important to the success of operationalizing AI in the enterprise.
100%. Like sitting down and telling Claude, hey, look at my email, wait for an order to come through, grab that order, process it, and put it over here. That part of the automation is easy now, right? But I have to explain to it what to do and what the work really is and what my employees do to get there. That's the tricky part, and that's what your software has solved.
Indeed,
your
it is. And
technology.
there's a second tricky part as well. That when the AI agent starts doing these things, then how do you make sure that you have governance and controls over those actions? That it does not do actions that are not part of the prescribed list or part of the policy or part of the contract. And therefore, the same mechanism that we use in the first place to capture intent and capture work, that context loop also becomes the control loop when AI agents and humans work together. So the second part, the tricky part, is also the control and the compliance over the execution that probabilistic tools begin to do in business processes.